Welcome to the Man Sports Fan Podcast. I am Philby25, hashtag FlyPhil. I'm with Fremdog Millionaire, Roster 2 Guards the Flame, Hato That Wisconsin Cabal, and Chris Smith, non-84 respondent. And this really is a Packers reaction show. That's actually why we decided to do it. Knowing that it's Christmas Eve tomorrow, it's actually going to be my Christmas here in Denver. I'm traveling to Wisconsin on the 25th. Going to miss those Netflix games that of Netflix I don't have. How are you guys doing tonight?
Blown away that you don't have Netflix.
A little surprised, to be honest. So.
I did not login at all. You don't have anybody's login for Netflix. You're just going nowhere. You just don't watch Netflix.
Okay, no. I used to have somebody's login for a good 7-year run.
Okay.
And then Netflix started cracking down, man. They really started being like, all the have to be in the same household. Like they knew. So
they did.
It was tough.
We did not have Netflix for about, I think, 2 years recently until we somehow got back onto our friend Erica and Matt's Netflix.
Nice.
And now we have it again.
Not anymore. Netflix heard that.
Yeah, they're all over this podcast.
My in-laws live like a minute away from me, like 2 blocks. So they have Netflix. So I think we're going to try their login and see if they notice, because it's really, really close. So I'll keep you updated. Last week, Roster 2 Guards, the Flame, was not present with us. And it was awesome. Well, I don't know. It wasn't awesome. I wish he would have been here. But what I was really happy about was that he felt FOMO. He felt sad that he wasn't with us. It wasn't like, I randomly missed a Monday. He's like, I wanted to be part of this conversation. So we wanted to give him the floor to talk about his number one holiday tradition that either he loves or him and Brooke do, whatever, or the Gardner Familia does. And then I want to hear your top 5 movies, but I want you to pick the one that you think is like, I don't know, you're most excited about, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, what do you have to say?
Two holiday traditions. One from the past that I'll start with is my mom's frosted sugar cookies are the best frosted sugar cookies that I've ever had. They are so soft. Like, it's unbelievable how soft these cookies are. They're never overcooked. They're not like undercooked. They're just soft enough that they just melt in your mouth. They are so freaking good. And she's been making these cookies all my life. I'm super duper spoiled. I think we brought like 15 cookies home with us. We were in Milwaukee over the weekend. They're already gone. So yeah. I think we maybe have 1 or 2 cookies left right now. Something that Brooke and I do is we always go to Rotary Lights in La Crosse every year, especially when there's snow on the ground. And I don't know if you've ever been out to La Crosse in the wintertime, but Rotary Lights, big, Christmas lights festival in downtown La Crosse at Riverside Park. So you're right on the river, and think of like the best light show from like your hometown, and like this is times like 2 probably. Maybe Eau Claire does something similar. Not sure about Baraboo or Lancaster, but it's pretty sweet. I'll say that much.
Cool.
As far as movies go, so I made a top 5.
Before you get to the movies, can you send us the Christmas cookie recipe? Because I am still trying to find the perfect sugar cookie recipe. If your mom would be willing to give it to the Man Sports Fan Podcast.
Yeah. Yes. So Brooke and I actually made it this year. We made her recipe. I will share it with you guys. But you have to be very specific about how you make it. You can only mix the dough for like so long. Or when you roll out the dough onto like the counter or wherever you're rolling it out on, you can only have so much flour on the counter to help, the dough from not sticking. So yeah, she's very, very specific about how she does it, which is, I was kind of surprised to learn a little bit about it over last weekend, just how much of a science it is. So yes, I will share it with you though.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, because even like when you use a hand mixer or like one of those KitchenAids versus just regularly mixing it yourself, that changes it. Which is just
definitely.
You think like, this is the same thing, but it's actually not. It's crazy. So
without a doubt.
Okay, let's hear your movies. Can't wait for the recipe.
Movies. Okay, so I'll start with 5. There's a whole bunch of ones that I could have put in at 5. So I just went with 4 Christmases because, honestly, just based off of how good Jon Favreau and Tim McGraw are in that movie as
so good.
What's his face's brothers, Orlando's brothers,
Orlando,
Dallas and Denver and Orlando. Yep. The 3 places where they conceived their kids. They named their kids after them. Great movie. Number 4, I was happy that nobody else had this on their list. It was Christmas Chronicles, which is a Netflix movie that came out probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Kurt Russell plays Santa Claus in that movie, and he's a really, really solid, funny Santa Claus. So I like that one a lot. And then I feel like my top 3 are probably going to be on everybody's list somewhere. Number 3, I had The Santa Claus, which is, a Tim Allen classic. It's a fantastic movie. Number two is Home Alone. And number 1 is Christmas Vacation, which I still quote, I think, in my everyday life. It's kind of crazy just how much that movie just mixes into what I do and what I say. And I love everything about that movie. We started watching it probably when I was like in maybe like 4th or 5th grade. And I think on my mom's side of the family, we always used to spend Christmas Eve with my mom's side of the family. And we watched that for probably every Christmas Eve for like 15 years straight. It was a long time tradition of watching that on Christmas Eve. And what's funny is actually on Thanksgiving, we watch Out Cold on Thanksgiving every year.
That's quality.
It's just great.
That's quality. Well, Maddie, thank you.
Funny traditions.
Yeah. No, it is funny how you talk about like you just quoting something, like quoting a movie, but you don't even remember that you're quoting it. You just say things and I
say, looks good, little full, lot of sap, all the time. Yeah, all the time. So
yeah, I think we just all have a movie like that, that we quote and we're not even realizing we're quoting. I think when we talk about funny movies, you brought up Dodgeball in that way, which is just like, it's so true of that movie for me. Well, Christmas season's all around, and I know a lot of you guys have been putting up holiday lights. And even, in fact, you might have traveled around and seen holiday lights kind of around your city. And that really brings up our first sponsor today, Holiday Lights Play Calling Service. Are you tired of your neighbor's overly ambitious light display showing you up? Call Holiday Lights Play Calling Service. Our experts will analyze your yard, draw up plays, and design a light show guaranteed to make your block bow down in awe. With special formations like Candy Cane Blitz and Santa's Spread Offense, you'll be the talk of the neighborhood. Call now and use the code BRIGHTIDEA for 10% off. Holiday Lights Play Calling. Let us light the way to victory. Speaking of lighting the way to victory, what a great Packers game. 34-0. I think Josh Jacobs is probably the one that led our way to victory for us. Our offensive line was incredible again tonight. Again, we're going live really
defense.
15 minutes after the game.
Defense pitching a shutout.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What is your guys' like snap judgment or kind of main takeaway from the game? Again, we're playing Spencer Rattler, a really, really beat up New Orleans offense at home on a Monday night. But yeah, what's your snap judgment from it?
I can appreciate we got the shutout. I'm a bit underwhelmed. I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority there. I was hoping for 40 plus points. I was hoping for more execution in the second half. I think the Saints have a bit of an underrated defense. I mean, there's still guys like Cam Jordan, Honey Badger still out there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being the downer here, but 34-0, I get it. But this is a Saints team I think you could have hung up, 40 to 50 points on. So offensive execution, just a little bit lacking there. Some of Love's reads. And I get it. We pulled Jacobs. We're not trying to push the throttle there in that second half as much, but still feel like we definitely dominated time and possession first half. But yeah, snap judgment's a bit underwhelmed, and kind of goes along with the theme of our competition hasn't been that great, outside of the Lions game recently. So yeah, still kind of questioning right now a little bit. Just seeing Seattle's record now, I'm kind of questioning that game a little bit more too. So yeah, I hope this is legit right now, but I don't think we're playing a very good opponents right now.
The Saints stink. They are so bad. Honestly, I think that's probably... Here's my takeaway, and it's not something about the Packers, it's about the Saints. They are probably going to be the least sought after coaching job out of all the coaching jobs out there, because I don't know if you guys have read into how bad their cap situation is. It is the worst cap situation out of any of the 32 teams. They will literally have to either cut or renegotiate contracts on probably 10 to 12 players in order to just sign a draft class. They are so screwed. And I mean, yeah, I don't even, they're just going to be, they're going to be bad for probably another 5 or 6 years, at least, I would think. So that's my main takeaway from the game, is just the Saints are bad. And the first 2 weeks of the season where we were praising how good their offense looked seems like that seems like it was 10 years ago now.
Yeah, they're scheduled to be $63 million over the cap at the beginning of 2025. So
it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
On who? Alvin Kamara?
They just re-signed him too.
Derek Carr's cap number is $51 million next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say Carr's a pretty penny in there.
Yeah, they're gonna have to restructure. What's his face? What's the name of the tight end who plays quarterback and running back?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom. They're gonna have to restructure Taysom Hill if they want to keep him. It's that bad.
His cap number is $18 million.
Man, if Derek Carr could stay healthy, if either of those guys could stay healthy for a full season, I think it's it's not a sinking ship, but that's tough. My takeaway from tonight is, holy crap, we run the ball a lot, and it's great, and I love it. And I was surprised, though, that we didn't air it out more with just how big of a spread that we had and about how many points I thought we were going to put up tonight. We did not throw the ball as much, 216 yards passing, but 188 yards on the ground with 7 different guys running the ball, including Kraft taking another one under center. So awesome that we've run that play multiple times this year. I love seeing that. But the run game is continuing to be great. Our depth, I think, is really, really good, that we can blow a team out 34-0 and have 216 passing yards. I think that's a positive going into cold football season.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jordan Love hasn't thrown more than 30 times since November 3rd. I mean, we run the ball a lot. That is 100% accurate. Josh Jacobs is the man. We just got to keep him healthy. I mean, I've said that almost every week we've done this podcast, but they're not going anywhere in the playoffs without him. So I hope that, we'll see what happens with the Lions, but we're pretty much locked into the 6th seed at this point. I just hope we're smart over the next couple weeks of how we use players. And I would like to see them air it out a little bit more, just because if you get in the playoffs and you get into a game where you get down, you're going to have to do that. And we've seen Jordan Love struggle in those situations a little bit this year. So I wouldn't mind. I did like in the fourth quarter when we opened it up a little bit and did some play action throws to our receivers, tried to get Jaden Reed going, which is good. I don't really have a lot of other snap reactions. I mean, we beat a bad team. Spencer Rattler did a jump throw across his body, which was awesome.
That was
It looked really cool.
So good.
That was sick.
That was awesome.
That was sick. But yeah, it's a good win. We'll see what happens with Christian Watson. I'm a little worried about him though.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm just impressed with how dominant we are in the red zone. We've become a dominant team in the red zone because we can just run the ball, and it's crazy how you'll be first and goal from the 10-yard line. The other team knows we're going to run it, and we can still get 8 yards out of it on first down. And so I think we just continue that tonight. And so that's the thing. That's the main takeaway for me. I don't know if we learned anything new. Raise your hand if you feel like you learned something new about this team tonight.
No.
Yeah, and I just think that's the thing. Like this, again, we beat them 34-0 at home. That's good. I mean, that what we do to teams that are bad is really good in the NFL. I mean, winning in the NFL is hard. People lose to bad teams all the time. So you don't want to take that for granted. I'm just glad we came out hot. I thought maybe the Saints will come out really on fire, trying to make a statement or something. And, we get up 21-0 pretty quickly. Holy Wars is this Sunday, which was moved to 3:25. Pretty awesome. Packers versus Vikings. What are the keys to the game for the Packers? Or the one key in your head for this game for the Packers to win in Minnesota?
I think we have to play turnover-free football. Playing in the dome like that is really hard already. Making turnovers with an opportunistic defense like Minnesota, I think that's really problematic. And I think we got to put pressure on Sam Darnold. I think we've been questioning Sam Darnold a lot on this podcast and trying to see him break a little bit. I think watched that Bears Monday night game last week. I think you saw Darnold make some questionable throws there. I think if you get pressure on him, get in his face, rough him up a bit, I think we stand a chance. And I think you limit how much he can do. He's not a super mobile guy, and I think if you give him a lot of pressure, I think you might not get it to his guys quite so well in that pretty potent pass game, which they've had all year. So pressure and turnover-free football.
Finishing in the red zone. It's been a bugaboo for Packers fans all year with this team. And it happened in the first game where I believe we were down either 21-6 or 21-3. And we had 3 possessions in the red zone and came away with 2 field goals. So that for me is going to be key. Like, can we keep the pressure on this Minnesota team and continue to score touchdowns and not just come away with 3 points? That's going to be the biggest thing, the biggest thing for the Packers in this game, I think.
Yeah, I agree with winning the turnover battle. We need to get Sam Darnold or anybody. I don't care if it's Sam Darnold. I don't care if it's Justin Jefferson, punch the ball out. We need to create turnovers, and we need to score off those turnovers, which is something the Packers have not done in the past, where they create the turnovers and then they come away with 3 points. So I do piggyback a little bit there off of a roster, but I think we need to win the turnover battle and score touchdowns. As absolutely boring and duh, why would you not need to do that? That's what we need to do.
Hey, you throwing out some coach speak tonight. Love it. To me, the key is getting pressure on Sam Darnold because I don't know, people paying attention to the Vikings realize that Jordan Addison is taking off. I believe he has around between 25 and 30 receptions over the last 5 games. So he's getting hot. Justin Jefferson's doing his thing. TJ Hawkinson looks healthy. Aaron Jones is running really hard and catching balls out of the backfield. Like, their passing game is super deep, and if we don't get pressure on them, we're susceptible to the play action. And who knows, even if Jair plays, like, how much will he play? So I think getting pressure on the QB, and if we don't, I think it's going to be a close game regardless. But if we don't get pressure, I think that puts us in potentially a hole early that might be hard to dig out of.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, what you guys said, I think is all true. I just think Jordan Love is going to have some really clutch throws in this game. And we've just been, I think, riding really good games here where we've, in essence, taken control early. It's taken the pressure off of Love, and in essence, we've been able to kind of coast through. I think this game is where he's going to have to make some really clutch throws. And I mean, against the Lions, I think he showed that he can. But I think for us to win in Minnesota, we'll have to hit some third and longs. We'll have to hit some plays that break down where Love, makes a play with his legs, or makes a tough couple throws in traffic. So I think he'll need to play particularly well for us to win. What is your prediction for Sunday?
Say this. I'm giving us the L. I think we get something like 24 points. I think they at least have a touchdown. I'm gonna say 24-30. Us, classic fashion, driving down or something. Throw a late interception, or turn it over on downs or something like that. 24-30 Vikings.
28-27 Packers. I don't know. It's hard to say. Either way, this game is going to be really close. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think the spread is 1.5 points right now. Yeah.
Okay, so if Jair plays and is at full health, I could see another, I believe it was last year, where we kind of took it to him late in the season. I can see that happening again if Jair plays and can shut down Jefferson. If Jair doesn't play, I still think we can win, but it's much closer.
So you're saying the Packers win?
Yes.
Some score. Okay.
Some score. Packers win.
We'll take that.
I'm going to pick the Vikings to win a close game. Shocker. One possession game. Vikings have played 9 of them this year. I'm also picking against the Packers, which I have to do. Just fit the brand. I just think this game means more for the Vikings. The Packers are kind of locked into a wild card team. The Vikings are playing for the 1 seed, so they're going to come out guns blazing. Like I talked about, like the Packers not wanting to get anyone hurt. The Vikings are kind of the opposite. I mean, they're going to go 100%, and not that we're not, but we can be a little more safe, I guess, with how we play the game, especially if we get in a hole. So I'll go Vikings close, 24-21, something like that.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I mean, Love in that dome, man, has been really good so far in his career. Just the 2 games he's played, or I guess maybe it's 1 game. Maybe it's just all Packers QBs in Minnesota. Have been really good. I'm gonna go 30-27 Pack. I think we'll cause some turnovers. I think our defense will play a lot better than they played in the first matchup, especially that first half. And I think we'll try to make a statement. We've lost to really the 3 best NFC teams, and I think we'll want to show that we can really play with them. And I think we've shown we can play with them. But I think we'll get a statement win in Minnesota, 30-27. And yeah, I think like all you guys said, it is a toss-up. These 2 teams are really evenly matched, but I think we come away with it. Now, while we're going to be in Minnesota Stadium, which nobody really cares the name. Has anybody been to that stadium, by the way?
U.S. Bank? Yeah.
U.S. Bank.
Went to the opening game.
I've been there for a concert, not for a football game.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be, or we're going to be at U.S. Bank, but Hayden, could you tell us a little bit about what's going on at Lambeau these days?
I can absolutely tell you about what's going on at Lambeau. You ever notice when the guys score a touchdown for the Packers, they always like run up to the stands and they like jump in the crowd? Well, that's called the Lambeau Leap. And if you're inspiring to be a Packer player, you need to join the Lambeau Leap Academy. This broadcast is brought to you by the Lambeau Leap Prep Academy, the premier training facility for fans who dream of executing the perfect Lambeau leap into the stands. With courses like proper hand placement for maximum lift and avoiding spilling beer 101, we'll have you ready to vault over the wall like a seasoned pro. Graduates of our program even receive a certificate signed by a real Packers security guard. Lambeau Leap Prep Academy, making fans part of the game, 1 leap at a time.
So I'm guessing you get to go to the field and you get to practice that.
Love that.
I mean, they could have a practice facility, I guess, outside That's to scale. But
it's true. Have you guys been?
I've never been through the academy.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you guys been to Titletown?
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome.
I haven't seen the
incredible.
newest rendition yet.
The one bar that has the golf simulator in it is awesome.
That's awesome. I saw like
I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it is so sick.
one of the graphics had like a sled hill or like a slide
Yeah.
slide.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's cool. It's
It
cool,
looked-
Phil.
It looks awesome.
A lot of
gotta
the
go.
like the UW Green Bay athletes do like they run like gassers up that hill for training.
That's
It's
awesome.
insane.
So it's basically like a mini Bascom Hill.
Right. Right.
Sure.
Cool. Well, we just saw the last game of week 16. We're on to week 17. But before we talk about kind of some of these upcoming games, besides Packers Vikings, let's talk some week 16. What was one game that stood out to you and why?
So Chris questioned the Lions last week. Can they play outside? There's all the stats on Goff outside the dome. I think there's so many reasons to, question this Lions team. They're falling apart from an injury standpoint. You have, just the Dan Campbell experience, if you let's call it that, of just how he plays games and his play calling, and losing to the Bills at home. So I think it was waiting for the Lions to fall apart. They go out in the cold in Chicago and just dominate. Pretty sound victory there. I think that's an example of this Lions team can go anywhere, even with their decimated team, you could call it. They're still winning football games in a dominant fashion, and I think they're showing they can play anywhere right now. And so seeing Philadelphia slip this week and just seeing Detroit go out in the cold and win, it's just another reason to believe in this Lions team moving into the playoffs right now. I think there's no doubt they're the hottest team, the best team in the NFC. And I think you could even call it that they're the best team in the NFL right now. I think we could get into talking about how the Chiefs are winning every game by, slim margins and really random circumstances. I mean, I think the Lions, you could say, are the best team in the NFL right now to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
So I'm going to zag a little bit here and talk about two teams with two of the worst records in the entire league. The Jaguars and the Raiders. And the Raiders probably disappointed their entire fan base by winning that game. And they literally dropped from the first pick in the NFL draft to the 7th pick in the NFL draft. A team that needs a quarterback. This isn't that good of a quarterback draft from what they say, but Shedeur Sanders and
Cam Ward.
The Cam Ward from Miami are still pretty good prospects from what I've heard. So I love watching these teams that need to have the number 1 draft pick just totally screw themselves in the final weeks of the season by getting a victory. And that was one of those games where I didn't have a whole lot in it, except for Brian Thomas, who was awesome again in fantasy. That was the other than seeing who won and who dropped in the NFL draft race. That was the only other reason to watch it. But honestly, it's really interesting to watch the NFL draft race. Giants with the number 1 pick right now, and knowing how inept the Giants franchise is, they will probably screw it up over these next 2 weeks. Just saying.
I'm going to switch from what I originally had written down, and I'm going to transition over to the Colts-Titans game. Super high-scoring affair for two teams that don't normally put up points. And shout out to Jonathan Taylor. Guy drops the football after breaking a 40-yard run last week before he gets into the end zone, and then turns around the next week and goes for 218 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just a week too late for me to advance in the fantasy playoffs. So shout out to the old Wisconsin grad, Jonathan Taylor, for having a bounce back week.
He did not drop the ball.
He lit it up
before entering.
He did not. He carried it into the tunnel, actually. I appreciate that too.
He'll never do that again.
No.
Never.
I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Sunday Night Football game, Buccaneers Cowboys. I mean, that game was awesome. Like, for anyone that watched it, it was just like a hard-hitting, old-school football game. It was a fun game, and kudos to the Cowboys for playing well. Cooper Rush looks like an actual quarterback. But my game is Vikings Seahawks. For anyone that was able to watch it, it was a great back and forth battle. The Seahawks had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're pretty much dead at this point, I think. But the Vikings just kept responding. They got down with like 5 minutes to go and just drove right down the field. Justin Jefferson did his thing, caught a touchdown, and then just made plays on defense. Like, for anyone that questions the Vikings, I don't know how you can at this point. I don't get it. I think Phil brought this up a couple weeks ago. They're legit, and Sam Darnold is not the Jets' Sam Darnold. Like, he is good. He makes smart plays. Like, I mean, they just keep winning close games, and look at the Chiefs. Like, that's been the Chiefs' MO for a couple of years here, and that wins in January. So, big win for the Vikings on the road against a team that had to win. So, yeah, it's a fun game to watch.
Yeah,
I was very disappointed that wasn't a regional game for us
made
here in
no
Wisconsin.
sense.
That pissed me off a lot, actually.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see, and we don't know how it's all going to play out here with Sam Darnold in Minnesota. But I'm just curious to see what happens. I mean, if he gets him to the NFC Championship game or to the Super Bowl, does their plan change as a franchise? I mean, we could talk about that in the coming weeks here. But, I mean, if you watch some Sam Darnold clips, I mean, that guy is just so accurate right now. It's crazy. And granted, he has probably the best, wide receiver tandem in the NFL, or at least top three. But man, he's just looked like a completely different player. It's crazy.
I think they at least franchise take him, right? I think the franchise tag for quarterbacks is like 1 year, $40 million.
40, yeah.
Like, that's probably something that you do, right?
If you can get high picks for him, boy, that'd be hard to turn down too. Man, if you can get a second round pick, a third round pick for Sam Darnold right now, holy cow, that would be tough to pass up.
Maybe, or you just roll with the two quarterbacks and, you just kind of just see what happens. Maybe Darnold is the guy that you end up keeping and McCarthy is the one that you trade away. Like, who knows, really?
And Darnold's only 27. He's 1
he's
year
like
older than Love.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's like a 10 years younger Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm. But
why not?
I would take, and if you could guarantee he's Kirk Cousins for the next 10 years, I would take that if I was a Vikings fan.
Absolutely.
Or just let McCarthy sit, and then you just ride Darnold until he hits a bump or, he trails off, and then you have McCarthy. I mean, I don't know why more teams don't follow the Packer model, right? Like, let guys sit, let guys marinate, like, let them learn how to play in the NFL. I mean, Minnesota's turning into QBU right now. I mean, what KOC is doing there, he's bringing Danny Dimes in. They have, 5 quarterbacks on their roster right now. So, I mean, it's like a developmental ground to, get guys back on track or, help them learn again and not be maybe criticized or beat up in the system. Because right now, I think that's the narrative, is that NFL organizations are chewing up QBs and spitting them out and potentially ruining their careers.
When people are really obsessed,
the Packers are.
I'm just going to say the people are really obsessed with the NFL like rookie or wage scale. I think that's why they're kind of doing that, or they want to take advantage of that. But don't you just want a really good quarterback? I mean, don't you just want to be in this place where you don't have to spend high draft picks on these guys or trade multiple first round picks to move up in the draft to get one? I mean, I think the Penix pick, we were all pretty critical of it, with the Falcons, and yet, Kirk struggles, Penix goes in, and I know it's the Giants, but he still played a fairly flawless game at home, and it's I mean, and that's, again, they're putting him in year one. We'll see if it works out here, but it's one of these things where, I think the Packers model can really work, and if you have a chance to get a QB, even if it's mid first round or late first round, like the Packers did with Love, why wouldn't you jump? And if you can let that guy sit, it could really work.
The Packers model is kind of unrealistic for other teams, though, because if you're picking a QB high in the draft, chances are pretty likely that you're not a very, very good franchise.
Yeah.
That you don't really have a whole lot of Like you don't have a good infrastructure. And for as good as the Penix pick, now seems in retrospect, the Falcons still paid Kirk Cousins $90 million guaranteed. Like, what was that? Why did you do that? Why give out that contract if you were going to draft Michael Penix 6 weeks later in the first round? Like, it honestly, that contract made no sense.
I saw a little clip.
I don't think they knew that I don't think they wanted Michael Penix entering the draft. Like, going into the draft, I don't think that he was their number one choice, and I don't know if they hit the panic button or what, but I don't think that was the play, because it truly doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess the Packers kind of did it with Rodgers, right? They drafted a quarterback a year after they renegotiated his contract, so.
Very true. But I mean, they still signed a 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury to,
for sure,
like I said, a $90 million guaranteed contract. It kind of just the math doesn't add up there. The smell test is weird, because like if that in that 6 weeks between the time that they signed him and the time that they drafted Penix, if they had found out like, okay, oh hey crap, like Cousins is going to be not good, like he's just not going to be able to move, like, didn't you do your research beforehand? But the Falcons have never won a Super Bowl. Like, we're talking about one of the more inept franchises in the history of the NFL. This kind of goes back to it, that the Packers are not necessarily a model that can always be replicated with other franchises, because the Packers have had I think 5 head coaches in our lifetime, not counting like Lindy Infante or Forrest Gregg when we were really, really little kids. 5 coaches and I think 3 GMs. And that's it.
It's crazy.
Like the Jets have had probably like 6 or 7 coaches in the last like 10 years.
I also think nobody knew what Achilles injuries would look like with QBs. I mean, I just don't think we've seen that except for Rodgers and Cousins. And you could see they're just not the same that next year coming back, especially that age. 36, like you said, 40, Aaron Rodgers, so.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to just say real briefly. I know we got to move on here, but I heard a little clip on this. I think that was a realization that we brought in this old dude coming off this Achilles injury. There's tampering with Kirk Cousins. So even that, I think they were desperate to bring him in, and they're like, oh, look at all our weapons on offense. We just need a QB to come in. They were desperate to get Cousins in. I think then there's this light bulb moment of like, what did we just do? And I think Penix was your insurance plan. So I think I differ on Hato that way. I think I would say that they knew they needed a QB because they weren't sure of Cousins and if he could really have a good season. So yeah, I think that was the insurance policy there. And I think other teams are going to hopefully learn from this. And I think you're right on the spot, roster, that, yeah, it's a pretty inept decision when you think of like Cousins coming off of this injury, and to base your whole team around him. A team like the Falcons that really just needs a solid QB. Like, I mean, yeah, why didn't you bring in a Justin Fields? Why didn't you bring in another guy that would have been more stable?
Yeah, it's just interesting what can happen in the NFL. Like, if Kirk Cousins had stayed in Minnesota, the whole Sam Darnold thing wouldn't be happening right now. And who knows if they would have had JJ McCarthy, if they would have drafted him, if they still had Cousins. It's just crazy how the NFL works sometimes, right? Yeah, one transaction can change an entire franchise, or one that you didn't make. It's just crazy. My game is the Commanders-Eagles. If Jalen Hurts is healthy the whole game, the way the Eagles work is they just manage and control clock, kind of like what the Packers have been doing. Who knows if, the Commanders would have been able to do as much on offense as they did. You still got to give it up for Jaden Daniels. That guy is awesome. He's clutch. He makes smart decisions. He's completely changed that whole franchise around. And I know they got new ownership and, all this stuff, got away from Dan Snyder, but man, it's just so cool to see, somebody drafted early, and a lot of times these QBs struggle, or, they don't have the greatest first seasons, but to see somebody almost just become a star, as he's done over the season, it's pretty cool. So excited for them. They'll be in the playoffs, so we'll all get a chance to see them. Probably play the Eagles again. That'll be interesting. Or and then so we'll see where it goes. Then they would play the Lions probably. If they won that game. So just cool to see, and happy for Washington. Looking forward to Week 17. Again, Packers Vikings. I know we're all stoked for. I think a lot of the nation is excited about that game. What game are you looking forward to, and why?
Just in spite of the fact that it's on Netflix, taking the NBA's holiday. What is the NFL doing? The Chiefs and Steelers are on Netflix on a Wednesday. I don't know. I think it's a bad idea. I don't like these shortened weeks where they play games. I hope these games are actually terrible for that reason. But you know what? It's the Chiefs and Steelers. The Chiefs don't score any points anyway. They're going to win something like 19-16 in some like really slow moving kind of lethargic game where, people are just, not ready to even play because it's Wednesday. So there's my mini rant, and Chiefs and Steelers, two quality teams that will be, in the playoffs. So hopefully a close game.
You should have waited for Festivus. You could have.
I know. I'm just getting ready.
You're priming yourself. Yeah.
My game to watch this weekend is Panthers-Bucks. The Panthers renaissance continues. They beat the Cardinals last week, and the Bucks dropped a pretty disappointing game against Dallas last weekend. And now their fate is not in their hands anymore. And I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about how scared Packers fans were about potentially going into Tampa Bay and playing that Tampa Bay Bucks team. Might not happen because Atlanta has Washington and then Carolina. So Atlanta might lose this weekend, but realistically Tampa Bay needs to win out in order to take the NFC South. I'm not scared to go into Tampa Bay and play that team. I don't think they're that good, realistically. So I'm kind of watching that game with a close eye, and I'm predicting a Panthers upset. Let's go Bryce Young.
I'm going to continue my own little trend here of supporting the Bengals. I'm picking the Bengals and the Broncos. So I'm going to ride with the Bengals all year until they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, because this might be the best path I've ever seen for a team that only has a 7% chance of making the playoffs. So listen to this here. The Broncos need to lose their remaining games. They play the Bengals and the Chiefs. To me, that's pretty doable. The Colts need to lose one of their final two games. The Colts can lose every game that they play.
Yep.
Miami Dolphins need to lose one of their final two games. The Miami Dolphins can lose every game they play. And the Bengals need to win out. I mean, that does not sound like a 7% chance to make the playoffs to me. That seems legitimately feasible for the Bengals to somehow sneak their way in and have Joe Burrow do some playoff magic. So I'm going to ride the Bengals until I can't actually ride them anymore.
It's going to be interesting to watch Surtain versus Chase. That'll be awesome. Like, those are two of the best players in the NFL. That'll be awesome.
It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, my game is Falcons Commanders. Kind of interesting. We have two top 10 picks going at it. Playoff spot on the line. I'm not sure about Penix. I mean, this is going to be a real test for him up against Washington. Yeah, I mean, I spoke about Jaden Daniels last week, saying that I felt like he was kind of hitting a wall, and he definitely turned it around last week. I think, sort of going off of the take that you guys were kind of making in a way, like, I think this NFC playoff field is the best I've ever seen in my time. Like, there's no team I feel comfortable playing. Atlanta would be that one, but I still think Tampa Bay is going to get in ahead of them. So NFC is loaded. This is a game that kind of seals the fate for the Falcons. If they win, they're pretty much in. If they lose, I think Tampa Bay gets the track to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's in DC. I mean, I don't know what the Commanders really have to play for. I mean, I think that's the one caveat with that game, but yeah, it should be a good one. For me, it's Ravens Texans on Netflix. Can't even watch it on Christmas Day. Traveling, so I won't be able to watch it anyway. But in terms of the two teams, the Ravens really have to play for something versus the Texans, who really don't. And Texans are coming off, I think, a tough loss in Kansas City, just injury wise, and they played well in that game. Kansas City did their thing and kind of shut it down, like they're able to do with 1-score games here, 1-score wins. But should be an interesting game in Houston. The Ravens feel like they went through a lull in the season, kind of like they normally do. But they picked up the last couple weeks, played really well against the Steelers this past week. But yeah, playing a Texans team that I think will just want to show that they can play, right? I think they'll play for pride. They're at home. CJ Stroud is, making really good decisions on the field. He hasn't had the best statistical year, but I don't think he's necessarily been had to, right? The way that the AFC South has, kind of played out. So excited, looking forward to that game. There's actually not a lot of great games this weekend. So, and it feels like we just know who the elite teams are and then who the losers are. And there's not really a ton of in between. Like the Panthers are that one kind of feel good bad team where it's like they're playing better, Bryce Young looks better. But otherwise, it's just kind of blah. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no bubble this year. Like, there's no one on the wild card cusp. We kind of just know who's in the playoffs with 2 weeks to go.
Yeah.
What about the Cincinnati Bengals?
That's your team, 7%.
They just don't have a defense. Their defense is so bad. It should be.
They don't need a defense to make the playoffs.
Well, and that's the thing.
And Joe Burrow's arm.
If they get in, I mean, nobody would want to play them because Burrow's just so good, man.
He's so good.
Well, hey, we're gonna jump to some college football, and we really love the bowl season, right? We love turning on ESPN, ESPN2. And we see kind of different weird teams play every year, and it really excites us all. Frem, do you want to tell us about the sponsor, around making bowl names?
Absolutely. Today's episode is sponsored by Bowl Name Generator Pro, the app that helps you create hilariously unnecessary bowl game names. Ever dreamed of hosting the Gravy Boat Bowl or the Leftover Pizza Invitational? Now you can. With thousands of combinations featuring obscure sponsors in random cities, you'll sound just like the real thing. Upgrade to our premium package for Corporate Chaos Mode, where the names get even wilder. Bowl Name Generator Pro, where the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl meets real creativity.
It could be Spanish. It could be Gasparilla. We don't really know.
Probably is that.
But
that is a real bowl.
That's crazy. What is Gasparilla?
Gasparilla. It probably is.
Yeah, that felt made up. I heard the Bad Boy Mowers, but
that's a real name.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that, Frem. Thank you to Bowl Name Generator
Pro. Fun little generator, though. I'd pay a couple dollars a month to generate some pretty sick bowl names.
Hey, You gotta listen to this. It's a pirate festival in Tampa, Florida. They have a parade. Parade.
I've heard of that. My cousin lived down in Florida. He said it is a massive, massive event that happens every single year. It's just like the richest people in Tampa that put on like a huge parade. So it's awesome.
Inspired by the legend of the mythical Spanish pirate Jose Gaspar. So it is Gasparilla. So there you go.
Okay. That's cool.
The more you know.
That's cool. Well, let's talk some college football. We had the first ever, the inaugural college football playoff. All the home teams won, and no game was really that close. Indiana lost to Notre Dame 27-17, but that's scoreline doesn't really have the feel of the game. Texas beat Clemson 38-24. Ohio State destroyed Tennessee 42-17, and Penn State killed SMU 38-10. What are your general thoughts after the first round of the college football playoff?
I like it. I think it's a little underwhelming first time around here, just seeing like all the chalk. But I think the debate in the future will be some of these rankings. I think you could argue like, did SMU, did Indiana belong there? You're leaving out really top teams like Alabama, Miami, Florida. So something to debate in the future. But I think it's great for college football to finally see a playoff. I think it's also, I think Hayden and I had this text going back and forth. For some of these teams like an Ohio State and Notre Dame, you might have really just keyed yourself up and got some momentum going into this next round. So it might even be to your advantage to play that first round game. Because I think Ohio State and Notre Dame have great chances to come in and win their next round game because of how they performed this last week. So, and I actually think Ohio State could roll all the way to the championship right now the way they're playing. So, yeah, love it for college football, and I think there's a lot more hype around the whole championship experience now.
It kind of stinks that none of the games were actually close. Like, yeah, that's just a real stinker that we expand to 12 teams, a lot more teams are involved, and yeah, none of the games on the first weekend are actually close. My favorite part of the weekend was on Friday night on College Game Day was Shane Gillis just totally flaming Nick Saban and calling he was wearing this ridiculous hat and he called him Alabama Jones.
It was a great hat.
Awesome.
It was so funny. And Nick Saban looked pissed. He looked pissed the entire day. He was not happy. That was one of my favorite parts of the entire weekend, I gotta say, because the games were kind of so.
I will just piggyback. I think the home field advantage is something people are going to talk more about because the next game is a neutral site, a bowl game. That home field advantage is a pretty interesting wrinkle that you see in like Division II or Division III football. So getting that home game is kind of cool.
Thank you for completely slamming my first point that I was going to make.
Classic. Classic.
Right from you. I was like, that's mine.
No, but I mean, it's obviously a very small sample size. This is the first time this has ever happened. It'll be interesting down the road if they do figure out like the whole what teams deserve to get in, what teams should be in, who the actual best team is, because this weekend showed us that home field advantage is for real. And I think if those are played at neutral sites, I think there's a lot closer games than we got. So I would almost be, maybe even like do home field advantage for the first two rounds so that those teams get, those number one seeds or those bye weeks still get a home field for the university. But I think it just showed that home field advantage is real, and maybe the committee got it wrong this year on who deserved to be in.
Yeah, it's just hard. I mean, the NCAA tournament, it's not necessarily about the amount of losses you have, right? It's quality of wins. But there's a lot more games, right? Where college football, it's all so condensed into this 12-game schedule or whatever. I think for me, I'm not concerned about the teams. I'm really not. Whatever happens. Like, there have been other college football playoff games where it's top four and the semifinals were blowouts. So this can happen, right? I actually just wish it wasn't home field advantage. There is something cool about it, like Frem said. But I'm at this point where it's like, I think what Hayden said is true. I think it would be a lot different games if they're on neutral sites. And why not have them on neutral sites? Why not have that? Maybe it's a scheduling thing, or maybe it's like, well, what fan bases are going to travel? Maybe there's all that worry. But here's the thing, like, especially for college football, even if it was a neutral site where Indiana, their whole, there's not going to get a ton of traveling fans, the stadium is still going to fill up. I just doubt it's going to be like a regular bowl game here because of the nature of the playoff. This is different than just a random bowl game in Tallahassee, right? That sometimes, you get about 75% attendance or the way it feels. So, yeah, I'm disappointed it wasn't a closer game either. I don't necessarily think the committee got it wrong, though. I think the people that deserved it got in this year. But I think they're going to have to think about seeding and how they're going to do that kind of moving forward in the coming years. Chris, did I skip you?
Yeah, you did, but I'm okay with that. I'll drive us home here. I think there's a lot the committee has to figure out with how the bowl system works. So here's the thing: I have no issue with first round home field advantage. I actually think that's earned. But what I think is really dumb is how they seed teams, because the top four teams should not be guaranteed division winner or conference winners. So think about it. If Arizona State and Boise State were playing this last weekend, we would have had two more competitive games than we had, because those two teams are going to get blown out next week, and we're going to say, "Oh, look, more blowouts. Like, this isn't even fun." So that's one thing. Like, if they can figure out the seeding. Two, they got to figure out, like, do conference championships matter? Because the only reason SMU got in is because you can't penalize them for playing in a conference championship game and let another team that didn't jump them. So there's a lot of things that they have to figure out to make this work. But at the end of the day, like, they have something to work with. I think we also just realized there's not that many good college football teams. So like, you can expand this all you want, but at the end of the day, there's like 4 to 5 teams that are actually legit and can win the national championship, and that's never going to change.
The committee shouldn't have boxed themselves in with saying that the conference championship weekend wasn't going to have any effect on team seeding, because that was stupid. Because that basically boxed, Alabama and South Carolina out. So
yeah, it'll be interesting what tweaks they make to the bowls, to this system, because I think they have something to work with, but they just got to figure out what they prioritize.
Chris, I'm really glad that I got my take in before you. It's this felt right to really kind of jump you. So I hope you're good. I agree with everything you said, but what I said was better, I believe. No, I'm just kidding. I think everything you said is true. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Again, this is like the test year, so I know they're testing some things out. If you guys are going to pick one game, who's going to win? Is there a game that stands out to you? You're just really excited to watch?
Yeah, it's at
Ohio State, Oregon. Oh,
yeah, it's at Ohio State, Oregon game.
No, I'm going on. No, I'm going out of turn.
We're all messed up.
Take it.
I think Penn State is better than people think, and they have a nice path. So I would not be surprised if they go in and beat Boise, even though it's neutral field. I guess they should beat Boise. But here's the other thing. Sorry, I'm jumping in with another take, but it's really stupid that the number 1 seed Oregon has to play Ohio State. I think they should pick who they play based on who wins that first week, because they're getting screwed, and they're not going to win the national championship because of how the committee seeded them when they were unquestionably the number 1 seed.
I mean, they shouldn't pick who they play, but they should just reseed, and they should just play the lowest seed.
Problem is, I think Ohio State is the lowest seed because they are 8.
So they are 8, aren't they? Yeah.
That's why
I think the seeding
they would be the lowest seed.
Yep.
I just think that's why it shouldn't be home field advantage. I mean, I actually think that, playing in the horseshoe as an 8-9 game, it's just insane, and also the way Ohio State ended the year against Michigan, it did not play well into Tennessee's hands,
So why can't they just once they have the 12 teams, why can't they dissect the 12 teams and rank them accordingly for the 12 teams that are in the playoff? Like, who cares if you won your conference championship? Like, you can be a lower ranked seed, but you won your conference, so you get the bye, and you're automatically a higher seed, even though you're ranked lower than the team
it's
that
dumb.
And that
didn't win the conference title.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, like, this sort of along those same lines, but there's going to be a professional league or a college league that gets to a point in playoffs where they have teams pick who they play. I'm telling you, it's coming, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking if they could like re-rank, if you could re-rank Ohio State and Notre Dame and Penn State and Texas right now, like, who would you then have them play? I mean, there almost should be like a re-ranking of the teams right now after you saw this game, because you'd put Ohio State at the top of that list right now after how you saw them blow out Tennessee. So, I think whatever, Oregon should be playing like maybe Texas now or something. Because really
Penn State, they'd totally pick Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State maybe. But really that Oregon Ohio State game is to go to the championship. Like, either of those teams is going to roll Arizona State or Texas. Like, that's not going to be a game. So I mean, it's kind of crazy how it is like one of these two teams is going to go to the championship.
That's bold. I think
And probably
Texas.
win.
I think Texas is legit.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
That would be a
Yeah.
game. Arizona State. I just haven't watched this year, so I don't know.
People
I
are
think it also. Oh, go ahead, Brent.
people are down on was it Ewers or whatever, like as a
Ewers,
QB
yeah.
play. People are just I think down on him right now towards the end of the season. He's not playing very well, so I think that's probably the biggest knock on Texas right now.
I think the playoff really even more. I don't even know if it needed to be solidified more, but I think it just proves that Division I competitive football is way too big.
Yeah,
It's way too big of a field. It's unnecessarily too big. You're never gonna have a chance if you're not good, and you're never just gonna magically be good.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's 4 teams every year that can win it. It's just a bunch of
did
field
everybody
fillers
freeze?
after that.
yeah. We could definitely talk more about the way college football is structured. I think it'll continue. I think, like Chris, you said, I think this will just exponentially. There's so much money involved, and I think because of the way that college football is going right now, it's like it could be very much a tiered system. To Hayden's point, where it's like you get rid of bad teams, or bad teams can move up in different tiers, almost like a relegation system, like in soccer or something. But I think it'll definitely shift in the coming years. It may not be an NCAA sport as we know it in the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't like is every single year something is going to change going forward until they think they get it right. It seems like.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a lot of consistency.
Well, I don't know if you guys watched all the games, but they were really loud. It was weird loud. And I was thinking, man, I wish I wouldn't have had, I felt like too much noise coming at me. Chris, do you want to talk about this kind of new thing that's been kind of created that the show's found?
Yeah, I'm pumped about this because this is something I've been looking for. And I feel like my prayers were answered with the Silent Night Game Watchers Society. Sick of loud, obnoxious sports bars during the big game? I mean, I know I am. I like watching from home. So join the Silent Night Game Watchers Society, where fans watch in complete silence. No yelling, no distractions. It's just pure, undisturbed focus on every play. Ideal for college football playoffs, NFL, NBA, and moments you just really, really need to hear the commentators say, he's in the zone. Members get free noise-canceling headphones and access to private viewing rooms. Silent Night Game Watcher Society, where sports speak for themselves.
Whoa, I like that.
That sounds
Heck of a
fantastic.
tagline. Yeah.
She does kind of sound pretty cool.
That does seem pretty peaceful.
Yeah, in honor of Festivus, these people are just upset at how loud everything is around them. I want to focus on the game. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to hear anybody's loud shouts at me. By the way, did you guys read any of the tweets from Tennessee fans around Ohio State fans after that game?
No,
Oh, dude, Tennessee fans were just railing against Ohio State fans. Almost like I'll never root for them again because their fans suck so much.
Welcome to Big Time Football.
It's just awesome because I've always felt that, and it just felt vindicated.
Oh, yeah.
All right. To Festivus. We are going to do an airing of grievances here. This is the roster 2 guards the flame, his top 5 special here. And let's do it this way. I mean, again, it's almost like what grinds my gears from Family Guy. That's just what I think of with this.
So
we could
good.
we could do lots of different you could go in lots of different rants here. So I'm going to say we just pick one that you really want to rant about, right? A couple of us have transfer portal, that kind of thing. Just pick one you really want to talk about and why it really bothers you.
So here are my 5, and then I'll pick out my rants. So Thursday night football games, reviews for college basketball and NBA. I think a few of us have that one. The college portal we mentioned here by a few of us. Seattle giving Brady a ring by not running the ball, giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1-yard line. Never forgive Seattle for throwing an interception there late in the game. And the NFL overtime rules. I'm going to rant about the NFL overtime rules. I understand the NFL, maybe you don't want the game to be stretched out too long. You got to end the game in, some type of tidy fashion. I think they've made steps towards, since we, grew up with watching the sudden death, like any point scored, ending the game, to now you have to score a touchdown in the regular season. I can't understand why you just don't give each team the ball once. I think college football has figured that out for a long time, of just give each team the ball at a certain yard line. I get it. Maybe you don't want to give them the ball in the 25. Fine. Give each team the ball in the 40 or the 50. Give each team the ball and make sure each offense gets on the field. If you want to do a traditional, like you score a touchdown, you kick the ball back, whatever, maybe that takes too much time, but make sure each offense gets on the field in the NFL to decide the outcome of a game. I think it's just ridiculous that some teams potentially maybe don't make the playoffs, or could lose maybe enough to like 2 games in a season because their offense couldn't get on the field. I believe overtime, right? They've changed that now. They still haven't changed it. It's still right. Is it the touchdown, right? Is that right?
In the regular season.
Regular season touchdown ends the game.
Yeah, but in the overtime, the other team gets the ball still.
Only if it's a touchdown in the playoffs, the other team gets the ball, but not in the regular
That's
season.
right.
Right. So at least in the playoffs, they have switched it, which is what I thought, which is a bit reassuring. But still, this is the regular season. Make sure each team gets their offense on the field to decide a football game. I just think that's ridiculous that you're essentially deciding NFL games on a coin flip. To me, that's bizarre. You look at, it was a Monday Night Football, the Bucks and Kansas City Chiefs, right? You give Patrick Mahomes the ball, they're going to go down and score a touchdown. So, yeah, just a frustrating dynamic of how the NFL can't figure out a way to make that work, and even maybe make it more entertaining. Put each team on either side of the field with their offense, something like that, like a shootout. I think whatever NHL, soccer, other leagues have figured out fun ways to end the NFL or to end a professional game here. I think NFL just needs to figure it out.
I mean, it's getting to the point where like whoever's doing the coin toss, if you lose the coin toss, they're getting like they visibly know that the game is over. Like they're just like Baker Mayfield was like, "Well, we lost the coin toss. This fucking game's over." Sorry for cussing, Phil.
You're good for
I
one
don't
week.
care.
But
I
like,
almost never
like
care.
seriously, like, and now that I thought about that, like, if you go back and watch the coin tosses of every overtime game that Rodgers lost the coin toss, it's like you could tell he was visibly upset. He was like, "Well, this sucks. I'm not going to get to touch the ball."
All right. So I've got a couple grievances to air here, fellas. Number 1, coffee shops not understanding what a little bit of cream means, aka Starbucks. If you ever go to Starbucks and you want a little bit of cream in your coffee, they're going to put half cream, half coffee. It's annoying. The amount of alternate NBA jerseys. You know what an NBA team should have? They should have their home jersey, their away jersey, and maybe one alternate jersey that they wear a couple games a season. I was watching a highlight the other day of Jaden Ivey from the Detroit Pistons scoring a game winner against the Toronto Raptors. I didn't know what teams were playing because of the jerseys that they were wearing. I had no sense of the teams that were playing. Number 3, people who say that dogs are just dogs. Dogs are not just dogs. Dogs are a part of people's families. Don't just say that dogs are dogs. Number 4.
I don't know if I agree, but keep going. Keep going.
Stop it, Phil.
I agree,
Knock it off,
but
Phil.
I
Knock
agree,
it
but
off.
to an extent.
Okay, whatever. Number 4, when NFL players have a mouth guard and don't wear it, there is an epidemic of wide receivers and defensive backs who just don't wear their mouth guard.
That is annoying.
And I don't understand why they have a mouth guard if they're just not going to wear it.
Yeah.
Number 5, older millennials, aka you guys, crapping on the NBA and sounding very, very much like boomers. So I listened to the April podcast that Phil, Chris, and Brian did, where you guys talked about the NBA for the first time, and if you guys had said the words, oh my gosh, the NBA isn't the way it was back in my day, that would have just completed the conversation, because it was honestly the most boomer conversation that I could ever listen to three people have. All three of you guys said that college basketball is the more pure game of basketball compared to the NBA. And sorry for cussing, I have no idea what the fuck that means. I'm sick and tired of older millennials dumping on the NBA. If you like college basketball better, that's fine. But don't try to tell me that college basketball is that much better of a brand of basketball. A couple things you guys mentioned in that conversation were load management, players not playing defense, and teams scoring too many points. If you think load management is a gigantic problem in the NBA, I don't think you actually really watch the NBA. There are a couple of star players that load manage, and guess what? They're injured all the time. Joel Embiid, always injured. Kawhi Leonard, always injured. Paul George, always injured. Yeah, even Giannis and Dame Lillard have dealt with a bunch of injuries over the last 5 years, and they load manage. Here's something that's maybe hard for you guys to hear. The NBA is as hard to play right now as it's ever been. I always laugh when people share on like TikTok or Twitter like a 3-minute compilation of the Bad Boys Pistons from the 1980s committing hard fouls just to prove like how, I guess, like how soft the NBA is now compared to then. Like, do you realize that not every foul happened that way back in the 1980s? Like, those were hard fouls back then. Like, that's not how every foul went down. Guys are bigger, faster, stronger, more talented now than they have ever been. I'm not here to tell you that, like, the NBA is perfect, but I am here to tell you that it is harder to play in the NBA in 2024 than it has ever been. From, like, a physicality standpoint, the talent pool teams have access to, the pace of the game and how it's played, the demands of the schedule, it's harder. And if you want to complain about high-scoring games, aka Chris, okay, sure, I get it to some extent. Like, teams take too many three-pointers sometimes. Defenses don't close out on shooters as aggressively in the regular season as they do in the postseason. Honestly, Brian, it felt like when we were watching the Bucks win the NBA Cup last week, it felt like you were hate watching the game, like trying to find like anything wrong with it. Honestly, like one of the things you said was that people weren't playing defense in that game. That was one of the most hotly defensive, like contested games of the entire NBA season. I don't know what we're watching. Like ultimately, my question is this when it comes to points in the game. Do we not want teams to score points? If you're watching the NFL, do you love a 9-6 defensive battle? Is that something you want to watch every week? I would challenge any of you guys to go back and watch the NBA we grew up with. Come back to me and tell me that you wanted to go back to that. I think that your memories are playing tricks on you. In fact, here's a series. The 2004 Eastern Conference Finals between the Pacers and the Pistons, which is the series that is credited with causing the NBA to change a lot of their rules regarding hand checking and illegal defenses. No team scored more than 85 points in a single game in that series. That was 2004. That was 20 years ago. I rewatched parts of Game 6 the other day, a game that ended in a 69-65 Pistons victory. Rewatch it if you want. It's on YouTube. I rewatched an entire quarter of it. You will see a parade of post-ups and long two-pointers. Basically, the most inefficient shots in the NBA. If you come out of that game thinking like this is what I want from the NBA, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I'm done.
This is why you wanted
That was
to call
beautiful.
it Festivus. This is why.
Yes.
It all stemmed
Oh,
from
that's
that.
I love it.
Hey, here's a
Yes, it
I-
did.
here's the thing.
Love your passion.
Just again, I don't know if we need a response here, but what I will say is
I
that
think we do.
in college basketball, the guys in the NBA are incredible. Like you said, faster, bigger, stronger, more talented. It just feels less like a team game. I think that's really what it comes down to for me. It feels less like a team game. I don't necessarily think it always is. I don't think that's always true, especially if you watch like Curry's Warriors, right? Like their team play was incredible, right? That's why they were so good. I don't know if Frem and Smitty want to play this because I think I favor the NBA the most out of those three. Out of us three.
I think this is a deeper conversation that needs to happen at some point. And if you want to talk about team game, everybody is trying to replicate the 2014 San Antonio Spurs, the beautiful game Spurs. Every team is trying to replicate that team and its passing right now. So I don't know what that means, that it's more of a team game. I don't.
I don't think people can replicate what they were doing because if you look at that roster, they were headed up by international stars like Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. And if you look at the international...
There are other international stars in the NBA right now.
There are, but I don't think there's stars that play like those guys play. And
How
replicate
so?
the team.
Nikola Jokic plays like that.
Nikola
those
Jokic
guys in
is
terms
like-
of distributing
But
the
he's
basketball.
different than anybody else.
Yes,
Like the best
which
player
is
in the
6 or 7
league.
games, 6 or 7 assists a game. Like, what are we talking about? Luka Doncic averages 12 assists a game. Like, what are we talking about, guys?
He's the
So,
third
again-
best player in the league.
Again, deeper conversation to have at some point. I
I
think.
love that you love the NBA. I mean, we need somebody that loves the NBA on here.
We do need
So
somebody that loves the
I
NBA.
respect
I
it.
do.
We do.
But
They get paid way too much money to not play every single game or refuse to play back-to-back games. I don't care. You're a professional
might
athlete.
be
You
here
get
a
paid
lot.
to put your
The
body
NBA
through
That is
hell.
not their
Look what
choice.
the NFL does,
The-
man.
That is not
Like-
necessarily their choice, and it really does not happen as often as you think it does. It really, really doesn't.
the Embiid stuff is
Except
It
for
is
when I take my wife to her first
it is a
NBA game
hand-
and Giannis
it is a
sits out because
handful
he
of
wants to
players.
that night. That was cool.
Wait, what?
Took my wife to her first NBA game like 3 years ago, and Giannis was just like, I ain't playing tonight. It's cool. It's my
I
rest
don't
day."
think that was his choice. And he has had chronic knee issues since 2018. And last year, he played almost every game and injured his calf and didn't make it to the playoffs. So
I've had chronic financial issues for my entire life, and I paid money to that game to see Giannis, and he wasn't fucking there.
I love this.
all right. We gotta give the floor to other grievances.
yeah, we need to.
Okay,
we need to
that
move
NBA
on.
grievance was 10
All
minutes
right.
long. So Hayden, you.
Here we go. Well, starting with the NBA, we'll just scroll right past this one. They get way too many timeouts in a game. I'll leave it at that. Big one for me. Now it's the snow season. I plow, or I don't use the snowblower by choice because I like the exercise. So I shovel my two cars deep driveway out into the road. I try to respect it, not throw on the road, and put it on the curbside, put it on my snowbank, and I shovel everything. And then I wake up the next morning and there's 3 feet of snow blocking my driveway to get out of my driveway because the city comes through at 4 a.m. and undoes all the work I do. We'll leave that one there. Another one, this is just me crapping on the city of Baraboo, apparently. Every other week recycling pickup.
Dumb.
We do every other
It's
week
so
in Baraboo. I
stupid.
don't know about you guys. I go through way more recycling than I do garbage. And especially during the holidays, especially this day and age we live in where you get a cardboard box sent to your mail 3 times a week. There's way more recycling than there is garbage. Pick up my recycling every single week.
That happens in Denver too. We live on Amazon.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's
I
insane.
have 2
It's
recycling
insane.
contraptions to hold all the recycling.
Yeah. I basically I have a full recycling bin in my house waiting for my outside recycling bin to get picked up just so I can empty the one in my house. It's getting absolutely outrageous. the NFL changing from Reebok jerseys. I don't even know if you can. It's probably on the sleeve here. I don't like the way the new Nike ones look. I think they're a little too form fitting for the consumer, not for the players. They look great on the players, but if you're just an average Joe buying a jersey to I like the baggier jersey because I could wear it like outside of my winter coat at the game, so you can see that I'm supporting the team. And I feel like with the Nike jerseys, you just don't get as much stretch with that. But my real one is James White, Badger legend, getting absolutely robbed of a Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 51 because Tom Brady got his 7th ring, or 6th ring, whatever it was. I don't care. The dude had 14 catches for 110 yards on 16 targets, plus 29 more rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 2-point conversion and the game-winning touchdown in overtime on a little swing pass that he fought his ass off to get into the end zone for. And I heard that Tom Brady gave the Super Bowl MVP to him and also bought him a truck for his performance, which James White accepted, which I appreciate. If that's true, if James White was like, yeah, I will absolutely take that from you, kudos to him for, balling out and then taking what was rightfully his, but also kudos to Tom Brady for giving him that. But I think that was an absolute travesty in that Super Bowl that he did not win the MVP.
I didn't realize his stats were that good in that game. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it was insane. 3 touchdowns. We
have to give it to a quarterback. It's the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah.
Makes you so
I think
mad.
that solidified that you have to give it to a quarterback. That game specifically. I don't think it's been a not quarterback since.
You should also have team defense MVP stuff. I just think of the Giants versus the Patriots. I think Eli probably won it, right? You could have just given it to the defensive line. It's they were the most dominant part of that whole game. Anyway,
I think Von Miller was the last non-quarterback to win it.
Oh, against the Panthers, the one they won.
Yeah.
That defense is insane, man. Underrated, long-time defense.
Didn't Cooper Kupp win?
Yes.
Oh, I stand corrected.
I think Cooper Kupp won.
Good for Cooper.
All right, Chris.
All right. I'm not going to quite be as Mike Gundy-ish as roster 2 guards, but I have a few things here. And I'm going to come back to my number 1. So number 2 is TV timeouts, specifically college football. Games should not be 4 hours long. And can we please, for the life of everybody, get rid of the touchdown TV timeout, kickoff TV timeout? Come on. That is the worst sequence in all of sports.
Awful.
Get rid of it. 3 is load management. And Gardner, this is not a shot at the NBA. This is a shot at all sports. I think pitching in baseball has gotten a little out of control, just baseball in general. I think that, for Hayden's point, to the fans, there's just a lot of pieces to load management that I think we can learn from throughout this. So I'm gonna hold that. Transfer portal. I know Phil's got that too. Transfer portal's awful. You shouldn't be rebuilding a college roster every year, and it's about the education. It's not about the game. 5 is streamaganza. I'm calling it. Basically, I shouldn't have to toggle between 20 different networks to figure out what a game's on. We're talking about Netflix, NFL Thursday. ESPN Plus is doing a lot of college basketball games now, a lot of good games. And all these cost all this money when it was more simpler to almost just have the one package where you had everything included. Now we're trying to mix and match, and it's gotten a lot harder. And my honorable mention is defenders who can't catch the ball. Stop looking at your hands. Just catch the ball. You can catch a football. You are a defender, but you can catch a football. I promise you can do it. My number 1 is replay reviews and challenges. This has driven me nuts forever. We live in the 21st century. We have the best technology we've ever had in the world. And no sport should have anything called challenges. No coach should ever have to call a challenge. We have the technology to get every call right at any moment. And as we've seen with the NFL a little bit this year, it can be a pretty darn quick process. Like this can be like 10, 15 seconds. We get the call right. Like, let's please stop doing challenges and waiting 10 minutes to make a call. And also, can we eliminate the chains forever in football? Like, why are we measuring by a chain in 2024? It is the most ridiculous thing ever. So please, like, everything should be reviewable in all sports, and it should be a streamlined process that's done in, like I said, 10 to 15 seconds. We can do it.
Can't get rid of the chain game, man. You're taking jobs away from people. Those guys, like, that's just a staple of football. That used to be the only thing on the sideline.
Do you remember the
was
note
the chain
card?
gang and the team?
From every 75-year-old. And honestly, they all just get rolled up on by NFL players.
That's fine
And
with me.
the way to tell whether or not an NFL player is a good dude is whether or not they stop and check on the chain gang guy.
Sure.
Pick them up.
100%. Well, I
Measuring by a note.
actually have a different ones than
I
you
did-
guys, which is good. We all had different ones.
I did want to say one. I did want to
great.
say one thing. I'm sorry. I don't think you can eliminate the challenge because I do think that there has to be some sort of like real human error to it. So like if a ref makes a call and the booth isn't like 100% spot on, I think you can make a challenge for it just to have that in the game, to be like, hey, you can challenge this if you want. We know the answer, you don't, but that's still fine. Risk reward. Like, it's hard to take the challenge away, I think.
I'd just rather have the coach focus on the tactics of the game. Like
That's
they shouldn't
part
have
of
to
the
be
tactic,
worried
though.
about
That's why you
someone.
get it.
They shouldn't have someone in their ear saying, "Hey, you should challenge this," or like, "Oh, it looked like a catch." Like if it's a catch, it's a catch. If it's not, it's not.
The guy in Matt
Fair
LaFleur's ear is not very
Yeah.
good. So,
It's not
No,
great.
he's not. He needs to be playing Madden.
yeah, for real. All right.
Stupid.
Here are my Festivus grievances. The Denver weather in general and a lack of plowing, which I don't know if I want to get into it, but both really bother me. Just the amount of commercials and ads. Sometimes it's related to sports and sometimes not. Like I think I hear probably a couple thousand ads or look at ads every day. It's really annoying to me. Why are we built on advertising? Our whole society. It's really annoying. If you watch football in Europe, right? They play more NFL now. Instead of going to commercials, they'll cut to other games that are going on. Because they just don't have commercials in every single thing that they do. So I know, money. It's so annoying. I could talk about the transfer portal. Transfer portal is awful. Just need rules. They need some rules. You need some guidelines. And to think that, 18 and 19-year-olds know every right decision for themselves is insane. As much as I want to give them like freedom and the ability to make their own choices on stuff, it's like, dude, like it's out of control. It really is out of control. And I think we're getting past like the COVID year eligibility thing. I think we're getting past that finally, or it's like coming to an end at least next year or so. It's ridiculous. The end of NBA or college basketball games with the timeouts. It takes way too long.
Yeah.
The last 17 seconds of a game can take 17 minutes. It's like, what the heck? This is so stupid. And again, it goes back to the
This
amount
is
of
a
commercials.
really good one, Phil.
It goes back to the amount of commercials. It's like, it just drives me insane.
Yep.
It's so bad.
And the amount of timeouts.
Let's look at an 8-inch monitor for 5 minutes.
I'm gonna die.
It's
I'm
wild.
gonna die.
It takes 17 minutes for the last minute of an NBA game to finish sometimes.
So bad.
It's the worst.
Ridiculous.
So bad.
Wonder why the ratings are down.
And then this is just my Chris put this in here. I put a brown Christmas. Chris,
I actually put
It was
it
all
in.
Hayden.
oh, that was on Hayden. On Hayden on Point put a Charlie Brown Christmas because I just watched that movie and he's really depressed at the beginning. So it really fits here. I hate just a brown Christmas, no snow. This happened in Wisconsin sometimes,
Cool.
and I've been pretty lucky here in Denver. I've had some good white Christmases, but man, it's just something about there's a bummer about it, it's just a bummer, and Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate, and I don't want fake snow. I don't need to go to the mountains when there's not a lot of snow. It's not what it is for me, but it's just a bummer. It's just really a bummer. So I think this is a good Festivus, guys. Gardner, thank you for allowing us the space to vent about the things that
Well
suck
done.
in the world. So
It's great to air your grievances against the
I'm
world.
glad that we suck to you. I mean, that sucks that we suck in your
It
eyes.
feels great.
Well, no,
Yeah.
you
So
said it.
There needs to be some tension. You know,
I mean, the flame
needs
brings
to be
it.
some tension. On
You
the
were
bottom.
burning.
Before
Older
Christmas,
You're
millennials.
burning.
time.
Well, Gardner, round us out here. We just went through a Festivus together. Tell us about where this kind of all began for you with your journal.
All right. This episode is brought to you by the Grievance Journal, the official notebook of Festivus and our beloved Frank Costanza. Tired of forgetting who you need to air grievances against? Our journal has pre-formatted pages to catalog every gripe, from Jeff in accounting microwaving fish. That's the worst.
That's awful.
Or people
It's
or people bringing fish onto an airplane. That's one of the worst things that you could ever do. To the Packers special teams again. Terrible. But good this year though. With built-in sarcasm prompts and a section for doodling your enemies, it's the perfect way to prepare for the big day. Order now, and we'll throw in a free aluminum Polish kit, because just like Frank Costanza, you find tinsel distracting. The Grievance Journal. Write it down, let it out, tell everyone how they have disappointed you over the last year.
Well, hey, if you have a grievance against us going an hour and a half, we're sad about that. We're actually sad about that. But if you did get all the way through and you're still happy you're listening and you love us, we appreciate that. We appreciate that support. Have a great Christmas, everybody. Thank you for listening. Go Pack Go.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.